Hey, hey, hey. So, this is the TVZ. You just got steamrolled, as you put it in the title of the replay. And when you get steamrolled, the important thing is to come back and before you look at the game in detail, just check the benchmarks and see if you were way behind in some aspect. So 22 workers, 2 workers behind. We're looking for 30 at 8 minutes, and we've got 27, so 3 workers behind. We're looking for 44 at 10 minutes, so 38. We are 6 workers behind, and we're looking for max saturation on 2 bases, which is 20, 40, plus 12 is 52, plus 2 guys out building, so 54, at 12 minutes, I believe. And so you're still 4 workers behind, but you're doing okay. So the idea is that you build up workers as fast as you can, and you get to this cap saturation on 2 base thing at around 12 minutes. And then from there on, you're either you're spending almost all your money on army, right? Right at 12 minutes is when your income is going to be the biggest that it's going to be until you saturate your third. And so you want to be able to spend that income. So right now with cap saturation on 2 base, you should have 2,000 on the mineral income and 450 on the gas income. Looks like you forgot to saturate your second and third gas, and you put an extra worker up here. So you have enough minerals, and you do not have enough gas. So in order to spend 2,000 minerals and 400 gas, you're going to want usually 14 Marines coming out at a time, as well as 2 starports constantly producing medevacs and banshees. And you got these upgrades chunking. It looks like they're going to finish around 15 minutes. So it's from right now, your army should be pretty small. You should have had a pretty small army all game, and just enough to survive, basically. And because your army is supposed to be small while you're building your infrastructure, you don't want to be pushing out onto the field and doing anything silly. So the problem in this game already is that you've capped out your 2 base income, and this is as high as you can get your income. You can't get it any bigger without a third base, and he's already got $2,700 income. So that should be $300 a minute more than you, but because you messed up your gas, it's going to be even more than that. I don't understand why you don't have 2,000 mineral income. Where are the... Oh, excuse me. I'm going to just look at the... So yeah, this base isn't fully saturated, and this one is oversaturated. So this happens a lot. It's not a massive problem in this game. Like, you should take 5 workers from here and move them down here, and then you'd have a $2,000 income instead of $1,700. But it's something to pay attention to anyway. I don't think that was even that big. To be off by 5 workers, no big deal. So my guess, if you cap saturation at 12 minutes, you should be at 200 unit space by 15 and have the 2-2 done. So let's look. The next benchmark is 15 minutes. I think you attack before 15 minutes, which is kind of ruining the groove. Yeah, so here's the problem is you've got 137 unit space at 14 minutes. The benchmark is 200 unit space at 15. So to push out with 140 when you're going to have 60 unit space more in just 1 minute, that's just a major waste of these troops. Also, it looks like 2-2 isn't done yet, so you're about to have 2-2. You're about to have this huge army, and right when you have this teeny tiny itsy bitsy baby army, you're pushing out. So let's pretend that didn't happen, and look at what the game looks like at 15 minutes, right? So at 15 minutes, and maybe you're a little late, and maybe we go all the way to 16 minutes. But say we go all the way to 16 minutes, you're going to have your 200 unit space Marine Army, and it's going to be worth $9,000, including tech. And at 16 minutes, the Zerg had $10,100 plus 1-1, so like $10,500, and no spines. And this isn't done, and he did have Baneling speed, so $10,700. So if you'd done everything absolutely perfectly, you would have been facing an army that was about $1,000 bigger than yours, maybe $1,500 bigger than yours. But with the mute account, it should have gone pretty okay. So basically, like almost any time you look at a replay of yourself losing, it's almost always something comes down to macro. I think you did a great job on your macro, but you pushed out before it had really matured. I feel like at 12 minutes you needed to get up to 8 racks, or 7 racks at least, and you're still on 3. And so from 12 minutes to 15 minutes, when you're really supposed to be starting to build your Marine backbone, you weren't producing Marines practically at all. You only had 3 racks. And 3 racks isn't nearly enough to get your Marine backbone in place. So if we look from 12 to 15 minutes is the real problem. Okay, 12 to 15 minutes is when you have this huge income and you no longer need infrastructure. So all of that income can be dedicated to Marines. Up until now, you've been spending all your money on new starports, new factories, turrets, engineering bays, upgrades, bunkers, all that kind of stuff. But now you've got all that stuff and you don't need to spend any money on anything but Marines. And so now you've got this huge income dedicated to Marines, and your army size is supposed to just suddenly quadruple in like no time flat. And you pushed out right before that's supposed to happen. And so if you look, you want to be hitting with a 9,000 army at 15 minutes, and you're hitting with a probably $6,000 1 minute earlier than that. So like there's $3,000 that you just don't have yet that you would have had if you waited a minute. Also, the positioning of this battle is kind of silly. Big clumped up guys, so baneling splashes do tons of damage. I feel like you would have lost this battle no matter what your positioning had been, because just the army size wise, he was way bigger than you with better troops. Lings are better than Marines, or Lings are... Lings against Marines, Lings will win unless there's no banelings, unless you can get them in a choke. So if you back yourself into a corner like this corner and there's no banelings, you can just dominate twice your number of Lings. But if you fight out in the open like this, where you can just get a full surround, then Lings will just totally crush your face. But you see, you also only have 1 medevac. You really want 8 at this point. And now you throw that on the barracks after you've made the push. This is kind of silly. I'm surprised your money is so low. Also, you left guys in these bunkers. That's silly. Also, you don't have a wall in at your front, so any counterattack is just going to instantly kill you, and we'll see that at the end of the game. He just does a counterattack, and because you don't have a wall in, you just instantly die. He probably would have killed you even if you did have a wall in, but there's just no reason to make all these depots in weird random places when you've got a place right here that's designed for depots. You wall in right there. Also, as you're pushing across the field, all of his attention is focused on killing that army. If you had landed this command center as you pushed and had like 2 Marines there to make sure no Ling delays it or no Overlord is poop and creep and stuff, then it takes, in order to morph the planetary, it would have been done morphing in the time it would take your Zerg opponent to kill your army and then counterattack. And then he'd be counterattacking a planetary instead of counterattacking into a bunch of, 8 Marines worth of bunkers. So yeah, the rest of the game hardly matters. At this point, he's got such a massive income lead and army size lead, and composition composition is good. I mean, Ling Baneling is great against Marine Marauder, Marine Medevac. Basically, what you want to happen is for you to have as much money spent on Marine Medevac as him to have on Ling Baneling, and he's going to spend a bunch of extra money on mutas, and that's how you can keep up with him even if he has a slightly bigger income. But as you make your push, that's the only time you're going to get to put down this planetary. If you wait until after your push like you did, and then you build this command center and then you go try to land it, he's not going to let you land it because he's no longer worried about what's happening at his base. Now he's worried about what's happening at your base. Zergs, I mean anyone, not just Zergs, but most people keep their entire army on one control group. Look, all of his ground army is on one control group, all of his air army is on another control group. If you do 2 things at once, if you attack while expanding, he's only got 2 control groups. He can't go to both places. He's got to fight here and then go. And it's the same with dropping in multiple places. If you drop here and attack here, he's only got 2 control groups. He can respond to 1 or 2. But if he responds to 2, one of them is going to be mopped up with pure muta, and your Marine drop against mutas will just dominate his mutas. So either way, you'll do tons of damage. That's really the key to Zerg. ZVT is so easy for Zerg. Like, he's got a relatively low APM, and he's doing a great job because all he really has to do is make Lings, Banelings, and mutas and A-move them. There's nothing difficult about playing Zerg if you can just do that. If you only ever have one place to look. It's so easy because their production, they can just select all their larvae and turn them into units, right? And their upgrading is exactly the same as ours. And adding a new base costs practically nothing, and it's easy to do. And even if you lose it, that's only 300 minerals. It's practically nothing. So really, what's hard about Zerg is creep spreading while injecting, while harassing, while expanding, while balancing workers, while dealing with drops. If you do all those things at once, that's really, really hard, and it takes a crazy fast player to do all those things. But if he can do them each one at a time, the slowest player in the world can do that easily. So he's not injecting, and you're not punishing him for it because he doesn't have to inject, because he doesn't have to produce marines. The only lings. The only time a Zerg has to inject is if they need lings, and the only time they need lings is if you just killed all their lings. So the way to beat Zerg is to completely ignore the mutas, try to kill off all the lings over and over and over and over. And if you keep killing the lings, then not only does he have to keep managing the lings and getting them into good places and getting good surrounds with them and worrying about how many banelings he has and how he micros his banelings, but he also runs out of larvae super fast, and he has to pay attention to injecting. And that's a lot harder than just doing what he's doing. So what the Zerg is doing right now, a baby could do in his sleep, and it's going to beat you, and that's very unfortunate. You never really got the infrastructure in place. The game is already over before you got your end game infrastructure, and that's so tragic and terrible. You really got to start these extra racks at 12 minutes. Right at 12 minutes, throw down a command center and throw down like 5 more racks, so that you have 8 racks and reactor cores on all of them and a third command center. And then as you push out, get vision right here so that you don't get surrounded and killed as you're pushing out. Maybe even try to push well spread, or keep half your army in medevacs or something so that you don't get intercepted, because if you just get your army surrounded, that's the end of that. Land this command center right as your push starts and morph it into a planetary, so that as you're fighting, it's morphing. And this morph into planetary only takes 50 seconds. It takes 50 seconds just to walk from this side of the map to this side of the map. So you are guaranteed to finish that planetary morph if you're pushing across the field while you start it. And then your massive pile of workers won't be wasted the way it is in this game. Like, you see, 3 of these workers are idle, and about 35 of these workers are idle. So you've got like 38 idle workers right now. And that's just a result of him crushing your first push like that. You did have I think you had a small window of time when you had 2-2 and he had 1-1. And that's exactly what we're going for. You want to be pushing... So yeah, right now you have 2-2 and he has 1-1. This is the time when you want that fight to happen. You fought before 2-2 was done. So it was 1-1 against 1-1, and that means you don't even have an upgrade advantage. So it's like big waste. You had a window and you attacked right before the window opened. It was just crazy. Never attack while you're still finishing an upgrade. That's just wrong. Also, I mean, I already talked about position. He has such terrible creep spread that you could really just pre-spread your dudes here and here and laugh at him and be like, man, you have terrible creep spread. Start to build some bunkers, put down some like Raxes cutting off this so he has to walk through the little thing, and then like 2 bunkers here and he has to walk through these gaps. That kind of stuff. Really, anytime you can force him to walk through a little tiny choke, even if you don't fight at the choke. Like if you put a bunker here and a bunker here, and he has this little choke to walk through, and he takes all his troops and A-moves them. Like I said, Zergs will almost universally just A-move their troops because they're so fast that trying to micro them usually does more harm than good. What you want to do as a Zerg is to position them in 2 places and then A-move them to 1 place, because if you try to micro them during the battle, it just ends up like screwing everything up. Other than like right-click pass and then let them surround or whatever, but you never want to let him get this around. But if you leave a little choke for him to walk through and he A-moves through it, it's going to be a single file line of 3 lings at a time. 3 lings, 3 lings, 3 lings, 3 lings. So he's going to end up with a big ball right on the other side of the choke and then a little line coming through the choke. And now you're fighting a line of lings instead of a ball of lings, and you can kick their butts a lot easier. Not that, I mean, I hardly ever do that kind of bunker, whatever, harass stuff, because you don't know how far his creep was spread. But if he really doesn't spread creep, you should punish him for it. Because spreading creep takes just as much attention as injecting larva, right? I mean, it's actually the same cooldown to spread creep as it is to inject larva. And that's what's really hard about being the Zerg, is remembering every 50 game seconds to go spread creep and inject larva and spread creep and inject larva. And you want him to feel like he has to do that or he's doomed. And the only way to make him feel like he has to spread creep is to build bunkers. Or to siege up at the edge of his creep or something like that. Like, make him fight off creep. Excuse me. So yeah, then this is kind of the end of the game as well. So really, this whole game came down to not building these racks quick enough. That's what I feel like. And then pushing just a little too early. You push before the upgrades were done. I've already said everything that really needs to be said about this game. It's kind of a shame that, like, you did some things really cool. You managed to kill off a ton of workers. Like, look at this drop over here, kills a bunch of workers, and you do another drop over here that kills a bunch of workers, and you did some cool stuff. But it just kind of snowballs out of control. What Zergs like to do is secure 2 bases, get max saturation, and then make an army. And then secure a 3rd base and fully saturate it, bam, all at once. Like 28 workers all at once. Boom, fully saturated 3rd base. And if you hit them right after they do that, then you're fighting the army they made 2 minutes ago, and you can crush them. And then from there, they're not going to make any more drones for a long time. So their army gets bigger and bigger and stronger and stronger. And then you attack them. They mop up that attack. And now they throw down 5 more bases. They just throw down hatcheries everywhere on the map. Because they know the second they mop up a Terran attack, there's no more attacks coming for a little while. That's the Terran MO. That's how Terrans work. If you kill a big attack, the Terran won't be out on the field. And the whole point of this build is to violate that precept. Is to lose a big army and then come attack them again. And so you lose a big army, they throw down 4 hatcheries, and suddenly they don't have enough lings to defend against the second move. And that's the whole idea. So it's important to understand the idea. You're doing suicidal aggression because you know that that's the right thing to do, is to attack and then attack and then attack. But it feels like the understanding of why you want to be doing that is a little bit lacking. And the understanding that lings will just kick your ass if you let them surround you is a little bit of a problem too. If you just kind of walk across the field, not hugging walls, not using chokes, and fight lings of equal number to Marines and Marauders, no matter, even if you have a 3-3 versus 0-0, they'll probably kick your butt with Ling Baneling. You gotta use spreading and chokes and medevacs and stuff like that. Anyway, let's look at. Wait, first, so we're going to say at 12 minutes you had 50 workers, I think? Yeah, 50 workers. And then at 16 minutes, 2-2 was done, and you had 6,000 here and 5,000 here, and the Zerg had 10,800 up here. So I just want to take a look at like the last game I played and see if it looks kind of similar. Like I said, because it's so easy to do what that Zerg did, like every league, even Gold League Zergs will be able to do that. So it's really hard to tell. Oh, not these. Like, it's the advantages you get of playing like lower skill Zergs are that they completely melt down on injects. They fail to creep spread. Those are the big things. Like, to do the bare minimum of Zerg, to make drones, put them at bases, to make extra hatcheries, to make spines, to make lings, to make banelings, and to A-move, all those things can be done with 50 APM. And then every APM after the first 50, the first like Silver League of Gold, all of that extra APM goes into creep spread and larva injects and being able to deal with drops in multiple places at once and being able to harass while defending, and anything that takes looking in more than one place at once. Those are the things that Zergs can't do even in lower Masters League, even the Zergs I play against. So I just wanted to look at and see if 10,800 is an unreasonably large Zerg army to have at 16 minutes. And if 1100 from the Terran is an unreasonably small number to have at 16 minutes. Because I suspect that that's pretty far off, but it felt like you saturated your 2 bases so quickly that it feels silly to say that if you spent all your money and you got a lot of money, how come your army was small? Like, that's kind of weird. And obviously it's because you didn't get those racks down quick enough, but yeah. Stuff. Actually, I went for a greedy, really quick 3rd, and this is something I do a lot, so I didn't really do the same build as you, so maybe this was the wrong replay to pick. Dun, 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 dun. Oh, also you got to realize that usually getting 3 bases is pretty easy, and defending 3 bases is pretty easy. It's the 4th and the 5th for Zerg that becomes hard to defend. And to compete with a 4 base income with Zerg, you have to have 3 or 4 bases of your own. So getting your 3rd up is pretty crucial. A lot of the times you can't really win on 2 bases. What you want to do is, especially the earlier you get your 3rd base, the longer it'll be before your main runs out, right? Because I have 3 bases right now, my main isn't fully saturated. So it's going to be a little bit longer before my main runs dry. I wanted to look 12 minutes for 50 workers, right? It looks like 59. So I did have significantly larger income than you at 12 minutes. And part of that is the quick 3rd. So this Zerg player that I'm playing he's kind of the equivalent of the Zerg player you were playing. He's a relatively low APM. He doesn't do anything but produce units and A-move. And so producing units and A-moving gives you like 80% of your strength as a Zerg player. And it's that little last piece, the ability to inject and the ability to replenish your troops and make enough macro hatcheries and expand and balance drones and deal with multiple drops at once. It's that piece that most Zergs don't have that you really have to abuse to win the game. So, look, I'm getting Ghost Cloak and Ghost. This is so non-standard and weird for me. Anyway, I wanted to look at 16 minutes and see if the Zerg has 10,800 bucks, and he does. He has the same size army as your opponent had. The difference is that you had 1,100 and I have 1,400, so 3,000 more. Also, I'm basically maxed, and so is the Zerg at 16 minutes. More importantly, 2-2 is done, and I haven't thrown away most of my troops. That's kind of a big deal as well. So yeah, it does look like you're significantly behind at the most important time, which is 16 minutes. And also, you had just barely secured your 3rd at 16 minutes, which means your main was completely mined out. There were 2 patches left in your main. But look at this. In my game, there's 8 patches left. And that's a big deal, because my income right now is 3,700, right? So each base is $1,000 income, and my main is still providing the full $1,000, right? And the only way you can keep your main from running dry is to get a 3rd relatively quickly. So to have 3 completely mining bases with 88 workers just gives you this humongous income. Whereas if you had 88 workers in your game, even if you'd secured that 3rd, you would have only 16 patches total to mine off of. So even like you don't need 88 workers to mine off of 16 patches, you only need 40. And so half of your workers would just be idle and not doing anything. So constant worker production only matters if you also have constant base takering. Anyway, so I think at 12 minutes you had 3 racks, and at 12 minutes in this game I'm throwing up to 2, 4, 6, 8 racks. So that's the big difference, is that I actually had the racks to spend my money. And that's totally key, yo. Even if you're not using them, they have to exist, because pretty soon your income is going to be crazy and you're not going to have the racks to spend that money. Yeah, so hopefully that's enough information, infographic. I'll move on to the next game now. Yeah, man, yeah.